Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Stephanie. I am your double board certified critical care physician, and I work with physicians who are struggling with their jobs, burnt out with their careers, or who just want some career advice. Through my books, webinars, coaching, and speaking, I help physicians discover alternative jobs and careers in medicine so that they can practice medicine on their own terms. And welcome to this Tuesday's edition of Let's Talk Tuesday, sponsored by Floyd Lee Locums. And I am so excited to be here. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking about some issues that have come up repeatedly amongst physicians who are doing locums and are considering locums work. But before I get started, I need you to do me a favor. If you are here, just drop a comment and say hey to me. Let me know who you are, where you're watching me from. If you're watching this on replay, type replay. If you like a comment, hit the like button. If you love the comment, hit the love button, and please feel free to tag anybody that you think would benefit from this this Facebook Live. Like I said, I'm Dr. Stephanie, and I am here on this edition of Let's Talk Tuesday, which is sponsored by Floyd Lee Locums. So we are going to spend a couple of minutes talking about several things to consider when deciding upon a locums company. Now, when you make the decision to do locums work and you go online and you sign up for on a couple of these websites that the locums companies have, then the next thing you know, you are bombarded literally with phone calls, emails, and now even text messages from recruiters wanting you to work with them. And that's one of the things that I hear from doctors who are new to the locums game, and they tell me that they just weren't ready. They just were not ready for the onslaught of attempts to communicate with them by the locums companies. And it just gets to the point, sometimes it gets so overwhelming that a lot of doctors just kind of bow down, just bow out of that for the time being, because they just don't know how to deal, don't know how to sort through everything. So we're going to take a couple of minutes and talk about 4 things to consider when choosing a locums company. Now, one of the things that you have to consider is, and this is the most important, really the reputation of the locums company. This is key, because it goes without saying that you don't want to work with a company that has a bad reputation. Now, in all truth and honesty, there are some companies that may have had a bad time with one physician or one assignment, and that happens, but to have companies that have repeatedly underperformed becomes a problem. And the easiest way to find out who these companies are is to simply ask other physicians. And we're living in a great time, the time of social media, which you can just pose a question on any of the social media platforms and you will get a plethora of responses. So really and truly, one of the easiest ways for my physicians who are interested in doing locums and want to know which companies to work with and which companies to avoid is to simply ask. There are lots of forums, online physician forums, and you could just ask a question, and I guarantee you people will tell you who they work with, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the thing is, across these different forums and these different discussions, the same companies keep popping up. So those would be, I'm not going to tell you to avoid working with those companies, but I will tell you to tread with caution. And just like I said, in order to find out the reputation of a locums company, simply ask other physicians who are doing locums. That is the easiest way, because you do want to save yourself some heartache and stress by avoiding the companies that have a bad reputation. The second thing that you need to consider when choosing a locums company is the responsiveness of the locums company and their recruiter. You want to make sure that they respond in a timely fashion to your communication requests? Do they respond to your emails, your text messages, your phone calls? Do they answer your questions appropriately? Do they address all of your concerns? Do they, if you do a locums assignment with them, do they call you during the locums assignment to see how things are going? Do they call you after the locums assignment, or even ask for feedback about the locums assignment and how things went? So you want to make sure that your locums company is very responsive. Hey, Latasha, how are you? So nice to see you. Thank you for joining. So you want to make sure your locums company is very responsive, because if they're not responsive early on in the locums process, I can guarantee you they're not going to be responsive when an issue arises. So you want to just make sure that they're responsive. The next thing you want to consider is the record of the locums company. You really need to find out how successful they've been in finding good locums assignments for physicians in your specialty. And that's the key, because they could be a fabulous locums company, but if they've never really placed somebody in your specialty, then that's kind of something you really need to look out for, because that says two things. Maybe they don't have any jobs in your specialty, and then maybe they don't understand what the job requirements are for your specialty. So you want to be very specific in terms of asking them, how many physicians have you placed in my specialty? And the fourth thing you want to consider is respect. And this is something that I just thought about, because I had a not so great interaction with the locums company over the weekend, and I'm looking at all of these social media posts about, doctors who are just fed up with the treatment that they've gotten from some of these locums companies. So you want to make sure that the locums company treats you with respect. Do they respect your boundaries? I mean, are they calling you at inconvenient places, like at your job? I've had locums companies call up to the ICU looking for me. Do they call at inconvenient places, like at your mama's house? Because this weekend, when I was visiting my mother, a locums recruiter called my mother's house on her landline, and it flipped me over the edge, because here's the thing. I have done work with that locums company. I'm in their database. They have my email address and they have my cell phone number. So why would they think that they needed to call my mother's landline? So let me ask you all something. Do you think I'm going to work with that locums company ever again? Absolutely not, because they don't respect boundaries. Does the locums company respect your time? I've heard horror stories about people getting calls from locums recruiters on the weekend, early in the morning before they start their shift, late at night after they get home from work. Do these recruiters respect your time and respect your boundaries? Because chances are, if they don't, and also, do they respect you as a physician? Do they address you as Dr. So-and-so? Or are they calling you by your first name? That is another thing that really is a pet peeve of mine, because if you don't even respect me as a physician, then how can you respect what I do as a physician? And why do you think I'm going to work with your company? So, like I said, the things to remember when choosing a locums company, you need to look for the fact that they have a good reputation. Avoid the companies that have a bad reputation. There are several out there, and when they call you, hang up on them and then block their number. But here's the thing, they'll just try to call back from another number, but you want to avoid the companies that have a bad reputation. So, and you need to ask your fellow physicians about the companies that they use and the companies to absolutely avoid. Also, you want to consider the responsiveness of the company. Do they respond to your needs? Do they respond to you in a timely manner? Do they address all of your concerns? Because in my experience, a company that is not responsive to you early on in the program, early on in the process, is not going to be a responsive company later on in the process, when things may get a little hairy and you may need some support from your company. You also want to ask what their record is in terms of successfully placing physicians in your specialty. You know, you might have hey, Dr. Anila, thanks for joining me. You may have a company that's great in placing family practice doctors, but you're a general surgeon. So you need to make sure that they've placed some general surgeons, and that those general surgeons that they've placed have been satisfied with their assignment. And then also respect. Does the locums company respect you as a physician? Do they address you by the proper name and proper title? Do they respect your boundaries? Are they calling you at inconvenient times and places? Um, and you know, is there just a mutual respect for who you are as a physician? And usually, if you will abide by these four things and just kind of keep these things in mind when interacting with the locums company and choosing the locums companies that have a good reputation, choosing locums companies that are responsive, choosing locums companies that have a good record in terms of placing physicians in your specialty, and then locums company that actually, you know, respect you as a physician and respect some boundaries, then you will have a pretty good chance of working with, you know, some great locums companies and getting some good assignments. Now, I can tell you this, those of you who know my story know that I've been doing locums for over 10 years and exclusively for the last 3 years. So I have experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly. And like I said, this weekend I experienced the ugly with one of the companies that I used to work with, because they actually called me at my mama's house and I didn't appreciate that. But I can honestly tell you this, because I have personally worked with Floyd Lee Locums, that they are a company that is an excellent company to work with. I've done 2 assignments with them, and then I've worked with one of their recruiters when he was at another company. And they are a concierge locums company that specifically does everything in their power to make sure that the physicians that they work with have a smooth experience from start to finish. So for those of you who are doing locums, who are considering locums, I highly encourage you to contact the locums experts at floydleelocums.com. That is www.floydleelocums.com. This is Dr. Stephanie. Thank you so much for joining me for this Tuesday's edition of Let's Talk Tuesday. We will talk soon. Thanks, and bye-bye.